Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are on chapter 8 of book 2, which is forgot the name of the chapter. Go back there. Emancipation of the Soul. Right? So we did sleep and dreams the past couple of weeks. Today we are going to go through spirit visits of living individuals. Okay? Philip, can you start for us, please?
The question
is 413.
The liberation of the soul during sleep seems to indicate that we simultaneously live two lives, that of the body, which gives us a life of outside relationships, and the invisible life of the soul, which gives us a life of hidden relationships. Is this true? During the liberation of the soul, the spirit life takes precedence over the physical life. But properly speaking, these are not two separate lives, but two phases of one life. A human being does not live a double life.
Okay, so here, Kardec asked the question, right? We just discussed sleep and dreams, and we learned the concept of us leaving our physical body, going and interacting with the spiritual world during our sleep. So the question that Kardec asks, well, so this means we live a double life, one life when we are awake and another life when we are sleeping. And the answer from the spirits, it's not really a double life. It's just that we are, before everything, we are a spirit that belongs to the spiritual world, which is our primary place of existence. The incarnations are temporary intervals of our life in the spiritual world, if you want to be very specific on our path of evolution. So our time spent in the spiritual world, the more we evolve, the more time we spend in the spiritual world. And of course, the physical body restrains our abilities to fully express ourselves as the eternal spirit, right? When we are back in the spiritual world during our sleep, we achieve a little bit more freedom than when we are awake in the physical world. It varies with each different individual, and we're going to see here later in these questions, but generally, what the spirit says here, the spirit life takes precedence over the physical life, which is true, right? Because the physical life is going to end. One day or another, for everybody, is going to end. The spiritual life is eternal. We live eternally. We are eternal spirits. We live both there and here, but our interaction with the spiritual world is present during our whole physical existence. So it is not a double life. It's one spirit, one life, but during sleep, a more expansive action of the spirit, free from the chains of the physical body. Okay.
414?
Yeah.
Can two individuals who know each other visit one another in sleep? Yes, and many others who are not aware of their relationship when awake meet and talk. You may have friends in another country without even knowing it. Visiting friends, relatives, acquaintances, and anyone who can be of use to you in sleep is very common, and you yourselves carry out these visits almost every night.
Yeah, if we think here of our dreams, for those that remember for better or less well their dreams, many times we meet with friends in our dreams. We dreams with friends, with family that's not present here, right? For those who have children away from where we live, right? We dream with our children. Is this always meeting with them? Not necessarily, right? It may be our own willingness to thinking about them, to meet them, and we end up creating this image or something like that. You may even dream of someone else, but because you so much want to dream with that specific person, you end up changing the person. But yes, many times we meet with friends, and at the time of Kardec, right, you say you have friends in another country without even knowing. Nowadays, we are much more connected with everyone, and it's much easier to keep communication. But at the time of Kardec, it was through letters. So when someone was traveling or lived in another place, even if it was a city that was, I don't know, 100 miles from where we lived, the only communication was through letters and very sporadic, right? Now, if you remember the book Domains of Mediumship, right? Chapter 21 talks about a lady that is about to discarnate. She's very sick. André Luiz, Hilario, and Aulus go there to visit her. She's in the latest stages of her life, and she attracts her son, who already discarnated, that it's an alcoholic that is still struggling in the spiritual world. And André Luiz asks about why she brings her son, and Aulus answered, because to her son is a good spirit, or someone that she believes that is a nice person, right? But that's not what we're talking here. She's really struggling to be alive, right? She's in the end of life. She goes through, and Luis describes, she goes through the experience of reliving her whole life. And then before she dies, on her reliving her physical life, seeing her life flashing before her eyes, as we say, she remembers her sister that lives in another town. And she makes an extra effort. She's unable to communicate with those in the room, but she makes an extra effort, leaves her physical body, goes to her sister who's sleeping, tries to wake up her sister, fails, but tries to connect, and her sister awakes and immediately thinks, I forgot her name, she's dying or she's dead. So this is two spirits visiting one another, visit between living individuals, right? She was still alive. She comes back and then she discarnates. But it is possible, it is, we can remember when it's necessary, or if we make an effort. And it is actually something that happens much more commonly than we give enough attention to it, right? If we pay attention to our dreams, many times we're dreaming with people that are alive, right? Are incarnated, not discarnated. So again, very common. It's just what's the purpose? It can have so many different purposes, right? But if we pay attention, we may take something from it, what's important for us, or we may not remember, which is the next question.
415. What is the purpose of these nightly meetings, since we do not remember them? The intuition of them generally remains with you while awake, and is often the origin of ideas that occur to you in a seemingly spontaneous manner afterwards, without your being able to account for them. In reality, you obtain them from the spirit contact in which you participated during sleep.
Yeah, so again, everything that we experience during our time in the spiritual world is registered in our mental body or mental brain as eternal spirit, right? So it's not that we are going to lose what we have experienced in the spiritual world. We may not remember here as a physical, in our physical body, but stays with us. And it can serve for different purposes, right? It's very interesting because we are doing this, and this week, 2-3 nights ago, I dreamt with my former boss that gave me my first job in Brazil. He discarnated with cancer like probably 8-10 years ago, and I have never dreamed with him, and just dreamed last 2-3 days. We had a good conversation. He was doing well. I don't remember the details, but he was doing well. He was fine. So, you know, it tells me that I really met him there during my sleep in the spiritual world. And I don't remember what he said, but, you know, it's with me. It's with me as eternal spirit, right? So if needed, it will come back eventually. Okay, there are some people that are able to remember much better their dreams, right? Daniela, that is here, is one of them. I know that she always says that she remembers clearly her dreams. So why some people remember better and some don't? Again, there's no clear answer. It's just, you know, characteristic of the person, of the spirit, and maybe the necessity of the spirit of remembering or not remembering if the experiences are not very useful or pleasant, right? Okay.
416?
Yeah.
Can incarnates trigger spirit visits to happen? Can they do this by saying to themselves right before falling asleep, tonight, I will meet this person and talk to them about this subject? This is what happens. The person falls asleep and his or her spirit awakens. The spirit of that person is often very far from following the plan that it decided upon while in the body, because human life is of little interest to a spirit when it is free from matter. This only applies to those members of the human race who have already reached a certain degree of perfection. Others spend their spiritual life very differently. They give free rein to their passions or remain inactive. It may so happen that a spirit visits someone that their incarnated self suggests to visit before falling asleep, but this is not because it was willed to do. I can't see the rest.
To do so while awake. Okay, so again, where do we go during our sleep? Where our mind takes us, right? Where our vibrations and connections takes us. So that's why it's recommended that you pray before you go to sleep. Pray in the sense of elevating your thoughts. Try to go to sleep in a calm state, right, with some peace of mind. So in that way, you can find yourself in more pleasant places or have useful experiences for ourselves. We talked a lot about preparing yourself for when you go to sleep, for working, being available to work when you are asleep, especially those that participate in our mediumship meetings, right? We talk about it. We put ourselves at disposal during our sleep to continue the work because the work continues on the other side. So if let's say I want to meet my cousin that lives in Brazil, and I miss him, I want to meet him, and I start thinking about him before I go to sleep. Is it possible that I go and meet him? Very possible. Of course, it's a two-way street. If I'm going to sleep and I want to meet him, but he's taking an all-nighter because of work or any other thing, I won't be able to meet him because he won't be sleeping, right? But it is very possible and actually happens, right? You see the example that I just gave on the domain of mediumship. It really happened. She wanted to meet her sister and immediately she went there. Again, she was in a state, very loose state, because she was almost discarnating. But it's basically the same. So she wanted to meet her sister. She went there. I don't know if her sister was receptive or not, but her sister woke up thinking about her. So remembering that she went there, right? And again, at the time the book was written, of course, the communication was more difficult, more easier than the time of Kardec, but it was still, I don't know if they had telephones at that time, I don't believe so. But they had ways of communicating a little bit faster. So again, depends on our level of evolution, right? And that's something that we talked about when we talked about sleep and dreams last week. If you are too attached to material things, if all your preoccupations are with things that are happening in the physical world, you're not going to go very far. You're going to stay around, because that's where your mind takes you, your vibration is located, right? So spirits that are not spiritually evolved, or that don't believe in spirituality or reject spirituality or not interested in spirituality, their experiences will be much more connected to the physical world than those that open themselves to spirituality, study, and are receptive. So we read in the books of André Luiz these talks that André Luiz goes with the mentors, and many times there are discarnates there. How are you going to end up in a place like that if you don't prepare yourself, right? If you don't open yourself, if you don't even believe that this happens, you don't go by yourself, right? You see that André Luiz describes that the spirits that are taken there during their sleep are accompanied by discarnated spirits, guardian angels, familiar spirits. So for you to be able to go to a place like that, you need to be prepared. There is another chapter of the Domain of Mediumship. It's not asleep, but it is what you asked about on Sunday, which is forgot the actually you asked on last Thursday on astral projection. Yes, there is a description of an astral projection of a medium that is taken by two spirits, right? For his experience there, he's meeting with a former director of the spiritist group that had discarnated recently. And it's interesting, they describe the struggle that in the beginning for him to detach from his physical body because he's afraid of it. But again, he's willing to go, he's opening himself to go, and he's taken by two spirits guiding him. So you can imagine that for us to go to any of these talks that we would learn things, we need to be in a good state of mind, right, before going to sleep. If you are too worried about your work, the work that you have to do next day, what I'm saying is, it's not even the fact that you are not studying or spiritually trying to evolve yourself spiritually, but we live our physical lives. We have problems. You have family problems, work problems, money problems. So the days that you cannot let go of these problems, we're not going to go far from our physical body. We're going to stay around. We're going to stay close to our physical body, right? Or, if there is a lot of disturbances. One thing is important, again, I mentioned last week, and I'm going to mention here again. Time is different there and here, right? Because people can ask, oh, but these people that wake 10 times during the night, you can have your whole experience between these 10 times you wake during the night, because you can go there, watch the whole talk, which takes 1 hour there, and it's 5 minutes in your sleep, okay? Because it's different time. That's important also, because people may ask the question, well, if I slept and woke 10 times this night, so I didn't have time to go anywhere. We can. If we prepare ourselves, we can have the needed experiences in the spiritual world that we need. Okay? Dani.
I think I shared this before, years ago. In a dream, I watched you giving a lecture, sitting down, watching one time. And the second time, I was helping people to sit down. Again, a lecture you were giving. But many, many years ago. And I still remember. Yeah. I don't remember the subject, though.
Oh, see? So it was not a very good lecture. You don't remember this.
I don't know. It was a lot of people, both of them, a lot of people. So I remember the busyness, all the people you talking. And the second time I was busy with sitting people down. And but it was many years ago, so it's.
And something interesting here, but it could have been a different person, right? But because you know me, you are used to me, so you think you saw me. I'm not saying it was not. It's possible that it was, but I'm saying it is possible that we project someone that is not really the person there. It's someone else, but you think it's me. I'm just bringing a different aspect of the subject here for us not to, because we talked last week, when we remember our dreams, we have to be very careful not to take them literally, because a lot of the things is our own brain that is connecting the dots that are missing, right? So, and this is another case, like I said here in the beginning, right? You want so much to meet your son that is there, not here, that you dream that you met your son, when in reality you didn't, right? You projected that you were meeting your son. So, but again, maybe it was me.
Well, it was twice, so I don't know if I would.
I hope it was me.
To me, it makes sense. So I dream every single night.
Yes.
So I remember almost everything, of course, the confusion and everything. So yeah, it's hard to convince me it was not you, but I understand your point.
No, it's more likely that it was me than not. But you cannot. What I'm trying to say, you cannot say 100% it was me. We always have to leave it a little bit open, right? To our brain playing with us. Paco.
Okay, now I wanted to comment on you too. Even if it wasn't you, listen to what I was thinking. Even if it wasn't you, in her mind, in her consciousness, or whatever, it is true. But that's another thing. Yeah, I mean, okay, reality exists outside myself, or it only exists within myself. That's the question I pose myself.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And and my question was here, because human life is of little interest to a spirit when it's free from matter. My question is this, are there spirits there who don't give a damn about us because they're not,
No,
he wants to deal with me that I'm so far behind and on their, am I making sense?
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but what I actually had this discussion
Good. I'm right.
on a different subject, but basically this, right? Because I got a message from a medium that received a message from Jesus saying that something about what's happening here in this country. And my answer was, the spirits, the more evolved spirits, are not interested in our daily problems of the, in the sense of what's happening here politically, what's happening here.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So their interest is on our eternal evolution and on our moral progress. The struggles that belongs to the physical body, they are not interested in the sense that it's not that they don't care, but they understand that our need to go through. So, they are not going to try to help us win the lottery to solve our financial problems, because that's not what matters to them. What matters to them is that what are we learning from our struggles, financial struggles in this specific case, right? So it's in that sense. Human life is of little interest to a spirit when it's free from matter, in the sense that the eternal journey is what matters, not the physical aspects that belongs to the physical world and will be left behind once we leave the physical body. It's in that sense.
Okay. Because so it's like some prophets will say it's that they do care, they do not take care.
Yeah,
They
do
care, but they do not take care because tribulations and vicissitudes I have to go through here.
Yes, exactly.
So they're not taking care of my business, my tribulations, but they do care in terms of myself evolving. Yeah, okay. Okay, thanks.
You are struggling. Let's continue with the financial problems, right? You are struggling with financial problems. You sincerely pray and ask for guidance from the spirits on how to deal with it. They are going to try to inspire you to have resignation, to have acceptance, to have strength. They're not going to inspire you to do this or that. Or if you are between two options and you don't know what to choose and you ask their help, yes, they will give you, if it's useful for you, they will give you the inspiration and guidance. But they are not going to tell you, go and play the lottery.
Solve the problem per se, yes. Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
But just to make sure here, all this discussion, 413, 416, and all of them, is in relationship of the spirit who emancipates. It's not the orders who are already there. So what the spirit's telling is, when I go to sleep, I have all my worries and priorities here while awake. When I'm emancipated, my priorities change. Everything that I think is so important here, when I'm free from matter, it's not so important. I have different priorities. And that's what this question is 416. It's basically repeating 413. I want to meet somebody very much when I'm going to sleep, help me when I meet that person is very important for me, is my boss or the woman that I love or whoever. Once I emancipate, I have different priorities. That's not what I really want as an eternal spirit. It's not about the others who are already there. It's we ourselves, when we emancipate, our priorities change or may change.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's also interesting to think of it in two ways. let's consider the spirits that we talk to during the mediumship meetings, you know. They've transitioned, and to some, their priorities are still very much attached to matter. So in their case, it didn't change. In our case, perhaps we become enchanted, we see the world different, like people that do, what do they say, psychedelics, or they do things they say, or they have an after death experience. They say it completely changed their life. Perhaps they saw something that really enchanted them, that changed their priorities. But if you're really attached to matter, like some of the spirits, or to in particular, spiritual, emotional, physical, I guess you're still stuck to that, and your priorities don't necessarily change quick enough.
Yeah, it's exactly that, right? Depends on where your mind is, right? How much attached you are to your own physical body. The more you are attached to your physical body and everything that surrounds your physical body, the less you'll be able to expand in the spiritual world to different experiences, because you don't allow yourself to go out there, right? You are, like you said, the spirits that come here on Monday, they are still suffering from pain, suffering from persecutions, and they cannot allow them, they don't allow themselves to expand their spiritual life experience, right? They are too focused on something, and when you are back in the spiritual world, you run the risk of being obsessed, self-obsessed with ideas, and not allow anything else to influence you, right? It's on the physical body, at least you have to eat, to sleep, the things that belong to the physical world that you need to do serve as a distraction of these self-obsessions. In the spiritual world, they are not. So it's very easy to self-obsess with these things and not get away from them, right? So, yeah,
I think we are mixing up things here. The spirit who's already there, who comes for communication is one thing.
yeah,
Emancipation of the soul while incarnate is a completely different thing. So we're talking about two different things over here. And when you read the answer of 416, if you read again, you say that the commonality is when you are emancipated, the things that were so important here change while you are free from the matter. That is like saying over here. 416 saying that.
they give free range to their passions or remain inactive. That's a phrase.
For
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
The spirit of that person is often far from following the plan that he decided upon while in the body, because human life is of little interest to the spirit when it's free from matter.
yeah.
That is the answer.
Yes, but then he continues. It only applies to those members of the human race who have already reached a certain degree of perfection.
Those who are able to meet the plan,
Yeah,
because that plan is now spiritualized.
yeah. Because others,
So we're talking about exceptions here.
yeah, others give free range to their passions and remain inactive. Those that are too much connected to the physical world, they are not able to expand. Yeah. Okay.
417.
Yes.
Can incarnate spirits get together and form assemblies while asleep? Definitely. The bonds of friendship, old or new, often bring together spirits who are happy to enjoy each other's company. By the term old, one must understand the bonds of friendship forged in prior lives. Upon waking, we recall a sense of the ideas that we derive from these meetings, but we do not know the source.
I imagine that at the time of Kardec, this was an abstract concept, right? This question and this answer. Nowadays, with the books by André Luiz and Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, especially, that they describe talks that they watch in the spiritual world, and the spirits that are incarnated spirits that go there, they are sleeping. So these are assemblies, right? So they explain well how this works. So we understand better that at the time of Kardec, when this, I imagine reading this question and answer at the time of Kardec must have been very abstract in a sense, right? Difficult to understand what type of assemblies they were talking about, right? Of course, we had assemblies in the physical world at that time. We always had assemblies, right? But in the spiritual world nowadays, I think we have a more detailed description of what are these assemblies in the spiritual world. Okay.
418. If I believe that one of my friends had died and this were not true, could I meet my friend as a spirit and discover that he or she is alive? Could I preserve the awareness of this fact when awake? As a spirit, you could definitely see your friend and learn the truth about his or her situation. If the belief in the death of that friend had not been imposed on you as an atonement, you might preserve an impression of your friend's existence, just as you may preserve that of his or her death.
Yeah. So, you know, we can have a dream with a friend and dream that they have died, or with a friend that had died or discarnated and think that they were alive, right? Sometimes we dream with our loved ones that have discarnated and they seem very much alive. It's a pleasant experience. So we can, again, at the time that this question was asked, you know, forms of communication were very limited. Nowadays, you want to know your friend is alive, you send a text, right?
Yeah.
If they don't answer quickly, you start to worry, you call, you chase them. So it has less relevance, this question and answer. But again, let's say you have a friend from college, right, that you haven't met or spoken in. We're good friends, but life happens and you haven't met or spoke with them in like 5 years, and suddenly you dream with them, either that they are dead or alive. If you are going to remember, you're going to bring the curiosity, and you are going to try to reach them to see, you know, if everything is okay, right? So I think in that sense, for nowadays, that's the best example that we can give to this question and answer, because most of the time we know our family or loved ones, we know that they are alive every single moment, most of the time, unless they go into a retreat, a no phone retreat, right? Or a silent retreat, right? Okay.
Concealed transmission of thoughts. How is it that the same idea, like a discovery, for instance, can occur in multiple places at the same time? We have already said that spirits communicate with one another during sleep. When their body awakens, spirits remember what they have learned and think that whatever outcome of that learning is actually a product of their own. Consequently, several individuals may learn the same thing at the same time. When you say that an idea is in the air, you are using a figure of speech that is much closer to the truth than you realize. Everyone unconsciously helps spread it. Our spirit often reveals to other spirits the object of our thoughts and reflections before we went to sleep, without our being aware of it.
Okay, so following on the discussion we had here on the assembly in the spiritual world, right? Let's say you are working on you are scientists working on trying to find a medicine or a cure for a disease or something like that. During your sleep, you are taken to an assembly where several other scientists that are working in similar things or different things are there. You all receive, watch this lecture, you go back to sleep, you wake up, you remember parts of it, and it helps you on your progress on your work. Now, it can happen at the same time with someone else that was there, right? And you can both reach the same conclusion and come to the same discovery or the same progress of the work that you were doing at the same time. I remember 20 years ago or 30 years ago that there were these two groups of scientists looking for cure for AIDS, right? One in France and one here in the US. And they came to the same treatment. Was not cure, right? Because still we haven't found the cure, but we found the treatment that can prevent the evolution of the disease. They both arrived at it more or less almost at the same time, and they published almost at the same time. One team from France, one team from the US. And I remember I was already studying this, and I remember thinking, that's exactly what happened. They went back, they went to the spiritual world, they watched something there, they learned something, came back and worked on it and found the treatment, right? Which is the treatment they use until now, until today for people that are HIV positive, right? This treatment came at the same time, both in France and here in the US. So it's exactly what Kardec is asking here. Can occur in multiple places at the same time. For us that we understand the concept of the experiences we can have in the spiritual world, it makes sense, right? It can be also, and we are going to talk a little bit more further, right? Transmission of thoughts also, right? You have the same ideas, and you bring these inspirations, let's say, and that come to more than one people at the same time. Okay.
420. Can spirits communicate with each other when the body is awake? A spirit is not enclosed in its body as in a box, but radiates around it in every direction. It can communicate with other spirits even when awake, although this is much more difficult to do.
Transmission of thought. We know nowadays that is very possible. Again, like the Spirit says, it's much more difficult to do, but it happens. And it depends on our vibration. Like we are vibrating at the same level. We know each other well. We have affinity. We can communicate through thought, right? You see couples talking about finishing each other's phrase, right? It can be not necessarily is this, but it can be this also, right? It can be that you know so well your partner that you are able to penetrate their thoughts in a sense, because you know the way they think, you know the way they present their ideas, so you can finish their thoughts, which is a kind of a transmission of thought in a way, right? So possible, yes, possible, and not completely uncommon, right? It's not common, but we know that more evolved spirits communicate through thought, right? Less evolved spirits are the ones that need words. So if more evolved spirits can communicate through thought, we all can communicate through thoughts. We just haven't learned yet how, right? So if we haven't learned yet how, but we all can, so we can, right? It's maybe, you know, like the one when we talk about you use your phone, right? Do you know how your phone works? We have no idea how it works, but it works, right? You can use it, right? So it's there. Our thoughts are there. We know how to send our thoughts. They are matter, they go outside. So if a person is very much in connection with us, can receive that thought, and we can communicate through thought. We're still some 1,000 incarnations away from it, but we'll get there eventually. Okay. Last one.
421. How is it that two individuals often have the same thought at the same time when fully awake? It is because two like-minded spirits may communicate their thought to each other, even when the body is not asleep. A communication of thoughts between spirits sometimes enables two individuals to see and understand one another without words. We can say that they speak the language of the spirits.
Yeah, it's more of the same, right? Let's say going back to scientists working in a lab trying to find a cure for a disease, and they've been working hard for years. If they are aligned, right? If they don't have a lot of competition, a lot of rivalry that prevents these vibrations to harmonize, it's very likely that they were going to be able to come with ideas at the same time, to have the same ideas at the same time, to work together on these ideas, to develop these ideas. When you think, I was thinking of another example, right? Composers, music, right? You have many songs that are composed by two artists, and two artists that compose songs for a long time, they are able to complement each other and to create a song in a much better way than the individual by oneself, right? Sometimes the sum of two are better than 1 + 1 in a sense, right? The result of two people working together produces a better result than two individuals working separately. And if you look at for those that like music, there are several cases of composers that work in teams that eventually produce something that becomes famous. So when you are sharing the thoughts, when you are sharing the interests, and you are sharing affinity, right? Positive affinity, right? Because that's important. If you are working together, but each one of you are trying to get some advantage, you are competing with the other, this is much more difficult to happen because the vibrations do not connect. But if you work together with the same objective and you sincerely are working together, then the transmission of thought is much more possible to happen and in a much more efficient way. Okay. Any final questions? We're not going to go next item because lethargy and catalepsy, apparent death, is a completely different subject, and it's good if we start next week from 0. Okay. We're going to discuss this again. Nowadays, with science, we have a much better understanding of these two cases, but at the time of Jesus, for instance, when we have the case of Lazarus, it is until today called by the religious people resurrection, right? Resurrection of Lazarus, that we know in Spiritism that is not possible. But we will talk about it next week. Okay? Anything else here? No. Okay, so next, what we have this weekend. So this Saturday, we have a talk by our friend Peter Hayes from the Spiritist Center in Newark, the Love and Light, is going to talk about blessed are the afflicted. Okay, Saturday, 11 a.m. Sunday, we have our Q&A session. So please join us and bring your questions, 11 a.m. The book club starts next Wednesday, a new book, A Light in the Darkness by Divaldo Franco and Joana de Angelis. We are going to do introduction and chapter 1, okay? The elevator is up and running for those that are planning to come to SGNY on Monday or next week. So the elevator is finally fixed. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Certainly. Thank you very much, John and Elmo. Thank you, Philip, for reading for us this evening and everyone who is here tonight participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Spirit's book. We're on Book 2, Chapter 8, Spirit Visits of Living Individuals and Concealed Transmission of Thoughts. We are eternal spirits. We have daily experiences in our physical life and also in the spiritual world when we visit during sleep. We may not remember everything about the dreams. However, we could generally be either inspired or preoccupied by daily concerns and disturbances which remain in the mind. We can also pray or meditate for guidance before falling asleep. Incarnates may meet up in dreams or even awake, those that might be friends, family members, or perhaps even colleagues. We can communicate through thoughts, especially if there is vibrational affinity. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, the workers, and all who are participating. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we go forth now as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.